Hello everyone. In the previous video we discussed about different organelles of the cell and how are they related to energy processing and storage and other related functions. And now this would be the final video and my final presentation on the cell, and hopefully after this video we would have a decent understanding of how the cell works and what are its different organelles. So today the topics which we are going to discuss about are going to be the microfilaments, intermediate filaments, microtubules, cell membrane, and cell wall. So let's begin. So my first topic would be, microfilaments. Now, so just to begin, these first of all, let us think what these three are. So basically, all these parts of the cell, the microfilaments, intermediate filaments, microtubules, cell membrane, and cell wall, are mainly related to providing structure, shape to the cell. Now, these two right here, and the microfilaments right here, are basically called the cytoskeleton, which means the skeleton of the cell, or the cytoskeleton, like which is spread all over the cell in the cytoplasm of the cell. So there are basically three types of cytoskeleton. One is microfilaments, other one is intermediate filaments, and the third one is microtubules. So let's begin with the microfilaments. Microfilaments are basically the thinnest of the cytoskeleton, and they are basically 7 nanometers in diameter. So the first point right here would be they are 7 nanometers in diameter, and their shape is a little bit like a twisted shape right here. Like you could sort of view it as a little bit like, not so much, but a little bit like DNA. Like they're twisted at each other, like you twist a candy wrapper. You can view it like that. So they're basically, so this area right here, like the distance from here to here, would be about 7 nanometers, and their basic unit out of which they're made of, the proteins which make them, are called the actin filament. Actin. The protein is basically called actin. So that's why they're sometimes called the microfilaments or actin filaments. And with so you might be thinking, okay, what is their function in the cell? Well, the function in the cell is basically provide structure to the cell and helps in motion, like in amoeba it helps in amoeboid motion, or if the actin along with myosin helps in contraction of muscles, which I hope would be making a video in the future. So basically it provides support to the cell, and its function is to basically help in motion. The second one, which we are going to discuss about, would be right here, the intermediate filaments. Now, from the name, you can view it, okay, it's not as thin as the microfilaments, and it's not as big as the microtubule, but it's in between of them, and it's about 10 nanometers. So let me change this first. It's about 10 nanometers in diameter, nanometer, and its shape is somewhat like it's like a rope. So the shape of the intermediate filaments is like a rope, and it's made out of different kinds of proteins. So I mean, it means it's not like specifically one kind of protein out of which it's made from. It's made of various types of proteins, and what's its main function is, so this would be the structure of the, and what's the main function of it? Well, its main function is it helps organelles to stay in their position. So it sort of sticks to the organelles, and it helps them to remain in their position, such as the nucleus sometimes most of the time it remains at the center because of the intermediate filaments. And so and other than that, it also helps in the structure in providing support and structure to the cell. Its main function is to help organelles to remain in their position. The other the other part of the cytoskeleton would be the microtubules. Now, the microtubules are the biggest, not the biggest, but the thickest of all these. Out of all these, from the microfilaments, from the intermediate filaments, the microtubules is actually 25 nanometers. It's huge compared to these two right over there. This one is a little bit huge. So this one is and it's actually quite easy. So out of from the name you can quite imagine, okay, what the structure would be. Like the word tubule, it means like like its shape is like a hollow tube, and its subunit is also easy to remember. Its subunit out of which it's made from the protein tubulin. So this one is a little bit easier than that. And it is basically, I don't think I mentioned this in any of the videos. Well, there are organelles called the centrosomes, or the microtubule organizing centers. These centrosomes contains two centrioles, and so they basically have two centrioles lying perpendicular to each other. So they have two centrioles. That's a 2 right there. And these centrosomes, as I said before, they are the microtubule organizing centers. The microtubules come out from the centrioles, and basically what their function, the function of the microtubule is that it, first of all, it helps in cell division. Like when mitosis and meiosis, these are the two kinds of cell division that occur in the cell. So these microtubules helps chromosomes to go on different ends of the cell when they're being divided. And the other function which the microtubule acts is like it helps as a tracking center. Like if an organelle wants to go a particular place to a cell, it usually microtubules helps it, such as if a lysosome wants to go to a damaged particle, or if it wants to digest some food particles, so it goes through the microtubule. The microtubule provides a track or a way to go there. So this is pretty much it now. So if you've noticed, like we went through the nucleus and all the way we went out of the cell, and we eventually end up to the cell membrane. Let's just put it here. Now the cell membrane of a typical cell is basically, it's phospholipids. It's a two-layer cell. I shouldn't say phospholipids right at the beginning. It's a bilayer. It's a two-layer or bilayer. And what it's made out of, it's made up of phosphorus and lipids. So it's phospholipids. And but there are other elements with the phospholipids, like such as carbon and other other elements too. But so it's basically a phospholipid bilayer. So it's phospholipids bilayer right here. And it basically has two sides, like a phospholipid. If you look at like a single unit of a phospholipid bilayer cell membrane, it's like this. If I were to draw a membrane, a phospholipid membrane, it would be like this, and it just keeps going on and on. So just let me draw a few more just to get the idea. Like this. So yeah, like this. So it just keeps going on and on. So you can imagine, like, this is one layer, this is the another layer. So basically it's two layer, and this part, the circular part, is the phospho group, phosphorus, or the phospho part of the name phospholipids. And the other one, like these two hands or tentacles, you may view them, these two parts are called the lipids. And this is the outward of the cell, like this is the outward portion of the cell. Outward. And this is the inward, like the inside of the cell. This is the inside of the cell. Now, so this is so another name for these two, like the phospho and the lipid part, is that this is hydrophilic, or it's water loving, and that's why both sides of the both sides of the cell, the outer and inner, are filled with water, so this end lies towards that region. And the inside of the the cell membrane, like this part right here, it's hydrophobic. It's like water hating, or phobia, which means to hate or to fear, so it doesn't like water. Now, the nature of the cell membrane, or the plasma membrane, sometimes another name for cell membrane is plasma membrane, so I think I should write that down too. Plasma membrane. So another name for the cell membrane is the plasma membrane. So cell membrane or plasma membrane is semi-permeable, which means it allows only specific molecules to go through it. It means like it's selective in nature. It doesn't allow anybody to go into it like as it wants to. So like non-polar molecules such as carbon dioxide or oxygen, they can easily diffuse in and out of the cell membrane as they want to. But some molecules such as you may view as like polar in nature, such as you may like sodium ions. So they are polar, so which means they have a particular charge on them, and the cell membrane doesn't allow them to go into the cell, but the cell needs sodium and other elements. So how does it do that? So it basically has proteins attached into the membrane. So if I were to draw a rough membrane like this, so it basically has proteins inside of, like, stuck into the membrane like this. Some proteins even penetrate through the membrane. So these proteins provide a way or channel. Let me draw a little bit more straighter, like this. So these channels are the gateway along which certain ions or certain polar molecules can travel along them. So these intrinsic proteins are the place intrinsic. These intrinsic proteins are right there. These intrinsic proteins are the places through which polar molecules travel along the cell membrane. Now, what's left? Oh yes, the cell wall. Now, in an animal cell, so the cell membrane is the outermost boundary, but in a plant cell, you have another boundary which goes all the way around the cell membrane, and it's called the cell wall. Now, cell wall is basically, in plants, it's made out of it's carbohydrate. It's made out of glucose, but in plants it's made out of chitin. So two different things right here. In fungus it's made out of chitin, and in plants it's made out of glucose. And cell wall also helps in providing structure and protection to the cell. And its cell wall sometimes it has pores or channels called the plasmodesmata. Plasmodesmata, which are channels which connects neighboring cells together, so cell can exchange materials and minerals among them. So this is pretty much it. We went all the way through different organelles. We went through the manufacturing organelles. We went through the basic structure and the concept of the cell. And hopefully after this video you have a pretty much decent idea of what the cell is, how it works, and what are different functions of the cell, and what are the organelles which perform different functions of the cell. So hope you find it useful, and see you in the next video.